Okay, the end of the last segment I was talking about Kane and Khali wasting time. You know what else wasted time? DX's incredibly long entrance sequence. This was really annoying. Like, Randy Orton and John Cena as well had these incredibly long entrances. There was so much time taken out of this pay-per-view, and this pay-per-view still ended 10 minutes early. I don't get this. We barely saw any wrestling on this pay-per-view. It was despicable, really. Now, earlier in the night, DX, in the opening, the build-up package for the show, DX basically hijack it and do some finger puppets, and basically it's, oh, look how funny we are, we're so funny. No, you're fucking not. You're not funny at all. Everyone just thinks you're sort of cutting edge because you're the only people in the company who have any creative license to do anything even remotely unusual, right? You're just a bunch of pricks. It's not a skill to be married to the boss's daughter, right? It's not a skill. Anyway, so it's DX versus Legacy, and DX do their incredibly annoying thing. Then Legacy come out, and there is no one in the world who thinks Legacy have a chance in this match. No one. And therefore this match is always going to be boring, and Triple H wanted this to be the main event. This would have been a horrendous main event, because yeah, the crowd were really into it. They were also into Cena Orton, which was also shit. This was boring as fuck, right? Anyone who says differently, I don't understand why. This was so dull. We had this long period at the start where we had Triple H in the ring at the start, then we had Shawn Michaels come in, and Shawn Michaels is very good. He is a very, very good wrestler, but he can't salvage these other three who are just boring. And we had Legacy dominate both members of DX at different points, and it was good to see Triple H get dominated for once, but it was dull, because Legacy are tremendously dull. And you know, they were trying to rile up the crowd. Ted DiBiase was shouting at the crowd, but he was just shouting nonsense. He wasn't shouting at the crowd like CM Punk, who can actually rile them up. He was just like, are these your heroes now? And you're just like, oh, fuck off, Ted. Nothing very interesting happens until about 15 minutes into this match. It was just a colossal waste of time, and then basically everyone just starts hitting their finisher suddenly, and it transpires that Shawn Michaels gets hit with Crossroads and with Dream Street, and Cody Rhodes gets hit with the Pedigree at the same time. So they're both standing up at the end of the match, and then Shawn Michaels hits Sweet Chin Music out of nowhere, as Michael Cole says. I keep saying, Michael Cole, that's not a good thing. You're not supposed to say the ending came out of nowhere. Most people would perceive that as a negative. Anyway, the ending came out of nowhere, and DX won. There were moments in this match where it was almost exciting, but really, this was a drudge. This was a real drudge. I was just waiting for the next match, which I knew would be the ECW Championship match, and I was quite looking forward to this, because both Christian and William Regal can really put on a good match. And I was like, this will be good. At least this will be good. There's plenty of time left on this pay-per-view. This is probably only going to get 10 minutes, but it'll be good. What happens? William Regal hasn't got his jacket off yet, and Christian just hits the kill switch on him. That's the end. Pins him 1, 2, 3, then Vladimir Kozlov and Ezekiel Jackson come into the ring and destroy Christian. And Matt Striker claims that William Regal is just showing how dominant he is. He just lost in 3 seconds. That's the opposite of domination. That is the very opposite of domination. You could in fact say he got dominated. This was pointless. I hated this, particularly as I then had to watch Randy Orton and John Cena take 10 minutes to do their entrances, and I was like, okay, Kane, Khali lasted about 8 minutes. This lasted 10 minutes, just entrances. There could have been so much time for this match. Anyway, WWE Championship match, Randy Orton versus John Cena, when egos collide. This was a fucking joke. This was a disgrace. And I actually like finishes where the heel, you know, I like old school heel finishes where the heel cheats to win or the heel gets himself deliberately disqualified. I like all that. This was a joke, right? This was another example of how you can't give Lillian Garcia any responsibility whatsoever, because she had to, you know, pull this match along, tell us what was happening, and she couldn't do that. So right, we start off with a very boring match between Orton and Cena, and the crowd are really behind Orton, and I didn't really know why, because Orton wasn't very good in this match. He was pretty boring at the start. I mean, he wasn't bad, but he has that quite slow, quite boring style at points, and there was a long period of Orton stomping, then there was a long period with a sleeper on John Cena. I was like, oh, this is boring, this is dull. And Cena came back into it a few times, and that was bad. But then eventually Cena's hulking up and he's getting ready to make Orton job, basically. So Orton just hits the referee, gets DQ'd, takes the belt away. And Lillian Garcia announces that the winner and new WWE champion, Randy Orton. And the crowd are like, new, yeah! And they're like, oh, Randy Orton. So Lillian fucked up again. And then Lillian goes, I've just received word from Vince McMahon that they're restarting this match, and if Orton gets disqualified again, he loses the match. So they do another little period of action. Then Orton walks out, gets counted out, and then I've just received another bulletin from Vince McMahon that says if Orton gets counted out again, he loses the title. And it just went on and on. So Cena locks in the STF on Orton, and then a fan runs in, which I'm almost 100% sure is kayfabed. The fan runs in and disrupts the match, and somehow Orton pins Cena by having his foot on the top rope as well for leverage. And then the referee comes in and went, his foot was on the top rope, let's restart the match again. I was like, if his foot was on the top rope and you saw it, that's a DQ. So Orton just lost the title. Anyway, so they restart the match again for about 80th time, and Orton's outside the ring. Cena comes to the ropes, and Orton sort of hangs him up in the ropes, but in an RKO type way. He goes in the ring, RKOs him, and wins. And I was like, oh my god, this was just your typical example of two people with massive egos. You know, Orton refused to drop the belt, clearly, but Cena refused to lose without a million things happening. This match was appalling. This was everything that was wrong with wrestling personified. It wasn't, you know, the in-ring stuff wasn't even good. Terrible. Then we had Punk versus Jeff Hardy. And at the start of this match, we couldn't hear JR's microphone, and I was like, oh my god, this is really worrying. Todd Grisham's going to talk through this whole match. And then when we do hear JR's microphone, he says Matt Hardy instead of Jeff, and I was like, oh god, Matt Hardy's going to show up and ruin this. Thankfully, neither of those things happened. So the crowd go crazy for Jeff. You've got a Let's Go Jeff chant, and Punk's being his usual hilarious self by Let's Go Jeff, Let's Go Jeff. He was leading the chant, which was kind of funny. And then we get a very slow start, which produces a We Want Tables chant. And I'm okay with slow starts, because usually when things start slow, it turns into a good match. The first main spot of the match was kind of botched. Jeff Hardy went for poetry in motion using a chair, aided with a chair, and Punk caught him, and he was supposed to get him more on the chair, but he only just sort of grazed him off it, and it wasn't great, but it was okay. And then there's a few semi-decent spots, and then there's quite a nice spot where Jeff Hardy goes for a frog splash from the top turnbuckle to the outside, where Punk's on a table and crashes through the table. That was good. And we get a few other nice spots as well. Jeff gets superplexed by Punk onto a ladder, and Punk also hits his back on the ladder from the top rope. That was very good. And then Jeff starts going absolutely crazy with some steel chairs on the outside. He just starts wrecking Punk with some steel chairs. That was awesome. There was another point where Punk went for the running knee. He hit it, then went for the bulldog, and Jeff just threw him over the top rope through a table. That was great. So there were a lot of great spots in this, and Jeff, I love the way Jeff was getting really aggressive with Punk and just smacking him around with steel chairs and monitors and stuff. He goes to the top, he hits the massive swanton, and I'm like, this is great. They go back in the ring. Punk's first to rise for some unknown reason, then Jeff gets up, and they both go to the top. Punk punches him in the ribs, wins the world title. Terrible ending. Great match, terrible ending. After the match, Punk stands triumphant over Jeff Hardy. The Undertaker's music plays. This was a great moment. The Undertaker replaces Jeff Hardy. You know, Punk's standing over him. The Undertaker replaces Jeff Hardy. He's below him, and then he gets up, chokeslams Punk, and that's the end of the match. So rather than Punk having this glorious moment, he just has to job to the Undertaker at the end, which was kind of depressing. But I like the fact the Undertaker's returned, and I really like this feud they're setting up. The Undertaker and Punk. I think this is the best way to get Punk over. You know, they put him against one of the most over faces in the company, Jeff Hardy. Now they're putting him against the other most over face in the company, The Undertaker. Punk should get really over for this, and I think their styles are very complementary and it could lead to a good feud. Anyway, that was my review of SummerSlam. It was mainly shite. Please rate this video, please comment on this video, and please subscribe if you wish. Okay, bye.